guys. Today we are joined by Cara Hernandez, and she has been so gracious as to allow us to come into her beautiful new office today. Welcome, Cara.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so excited to welcome you to our new space.
It's absolutely stunning, so we appreciate it. So today we're going to dive into trust a little bit more. We mentioned it on our last time together, and so we just thought we would dig in a little bit further on that for our viewers.
Wonderful.
So let's kick this off. Tell us, first of all, who should get a trust?
Okay, well, it depends. That's the famous legal answer. For some people, a trust really is a must, while for other families, a trust is a may. So I get this question a lot, and there are times even when somebody, I wouldn't even say that they really need to have a trust, but they have other personal reasons that they would like to have one. And so we always talk about it. We talk about the pros and cons. So a classic person who really should, in my opinion, have a trust would be a family with minor children, families who are part of a blended family. One of the reasons that many of my clients get a trust, even though I wouldn't say they classically need one, is because maybe there has been dementia or Parkinson's that have run through their family, and they're concerned that they may go through a long period of the same.
Right.
And so they would like to have a trust because it's a very powerful way to take care of our family members, including for my own grandfather. When he got dementia toward late in life, he already had a trust set up. And so we were able to use that as a tool to help him through those later years of his life and keep things very seamless and very respectful for him.
And also, I know you mentioned people with young kids or older adults, but also those people maybe with a child with special needs or disabilities who can't take care of themselves.
Yes, absolutely. If we've got somebody with special needs in our family, we must have a trust. We would do something for them called a supplemental needs trust. So that would be something we would talk about. And then also when people are business owners, a trust can be a very powerful tool to help in case of incapacity. And then of course, keeping their business out of probate if they do pass away. Because if we've got employees to pay or contractors to pay, we don't want our estate to get stuck in probate and possibly lose our business.
So that brings us to a good point. So what would be better, a will or a trust, or is one better for some and the other for others?
Well, if you do get a trust, you're also going to have a will. They always go together. It's called a pour over will, and it goes together with the trust. If you don't have a trust, you're just going to have a regular last will and testament. And that can be sufficient. I would rather somebody have at least a will than nothing at all. And because it keeps our families out of intestacy, which is really the worst thing that we can accidentally do to our family to not be prepared. So if you're going to begin, at least begin with a will. And it's the idea too is that you can grow into your estate planning. It doesn't have to be one and done. So for some families, maybe they're not ready for the whole shebang. So we just start with a will and your emergency documents. And then as they grow or as their families grow, their assets grow, then we start to add another layer, and then we can add that trust later on.
Okay, perfect. So how would that happen as far as continuing to maintain a trust and then also growing it?
Yes. Well, maintenance on a trust it doesn't have to be that terrible. I always compare it to kind of like a succulent plant. It doesn't need constant attention, but it needs a little bit. So we want to touch our trust probably at least once a year, at the very longest, maybe once every 3 years.
Okay.
Because if a trust is not funded, and we'll talk about that in another video, if a trust is not funded, it's not going to work. And so we want to make sure that our assets are labeled in the name of the trust, that we've got our eyes on it. And then another thing happens is life changes, right? Maybe we have had a divorce or a birth or a death, or people have moved away, or like in my own family, my parents were listed as the guardians for my children. Well, now my mom is taking care of her aging mother. So not a great fit anymore for her or for us. And it's okay for things to change. We just need to recognize that and make sure that we keep up with it. And our parents age too. Sometimes people like to put their parents down as their trustee, as their agents on their power of attorney. Well, when their parents get older, they may not be able to, and they may just really not want to. And that's okay too. We just need to kind of keep up with things.
Speaking of aging, what is a good age? Is there an age you would recommend putting your trust in the hands of your own children?
Well,
or is it just, I know the maturity level of different kids varies, and so.
I usually don't recommend any time before age 30. The reason is they are still kind of developing their personhood, and so they're trying to figure out who they are and their relationship with money. We're also still figuring out now our new adult relationship where they are adulting and we're not parenting so much anymore. And then the other thing is hopefully they have found their significant other, and so we're figuring out how does that person impact our family, and do we get to plan for them or do we plan around them? So it's, I usually wait until about 30s-ish before they get to be a trustee or an agent.
That makes good sense, because we are, I didn't know who I was at 22 for sure, much less having to manage a trust in those kinds of funds.
Yes.
So I guess that's it. Is there anything else you would like to add today about that?
One thing that people will often ask me is, can I make my own trust? I really don't advise that, and I'm not just saying that because I'm an attorney. I absolutely will tell you, if you can do your own work, absolutely do it. There's no problem with that. But a trust is very complicated, and it is, the trust that we do are over 100 pages, and people say, why is it so long? And I tell them, because something has happened before. It is in here because this has been a lawsuit, and so we just know kind of those pitfalls and those triggers that we need to take care of. Like you were saying, Jennifer, about our family members with disabilities who might be on Medicaid, we need to take care of them differently. If we have a blended family, we really want to make sure that we're not tying our family's financial futures together permanently. There are many ways that we can avoid that. Don't ever do that to your family. It's so mean. And there's so much that we can do to work around that.
Well, you're basically putting them in business together.
Oh,
and if they can't even be in a
want
room
to be.
together.
They don't want to be. And it's totally fixable. So more so even than writing the legal language, which is of course important because you want to actually make sure it's going to work, and you're not going to be around to make sure it's going to work or to tell them what you really wanted. It's also, an attorney can give you a lot of great ideas and kind of conflict prevention ideas so that you can make sure that your family is going to stay out of court and out of conflict after you're gone.
I love that. I really like how you pointed out conflict prevention, because that's what this pre-planning does. And that's why I'm doing these videos, to help people and their families understand how they can keep the peace for their family after they're gone.
Yes.
And so if you have any more questions, reach out to me and I can get you in touch with Cara, or her information will be at the end of the video. Thanks for watching.